Jack Regan wants to join us on the phone, so we'll call him right now. Jack, we got you on speaker. We're ready to start the meeting.
Okay.
Jack Regan, he's UHY?
Yep.
Yep, no, they're asking who you are. I'm telling who you are. Okay, the September 6, 2022 meeting of the West Haven ARPA Committee will now come to order. Will each member, paid professional and city official, please state your name for the record? We'll start with Iris. Go ahead.
Carrie Carter.
Doug Coulter.
Ken Carney.
David Grodberg, Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy.
Chris Borstein.
Ken Ferris.
Mike Last. Rohan Smith.
Let the record show we have two council people here tonight. And we've got Ron Quagliani and Chairman Massaro, and we have Keegan French from UHY. Each member has received a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any proposed changes?
Do you have the, do you have both of those funding memos on the list?
I'm gonna put, I do. I'm gonna put,
I just didn't see paving.
I think it's in here. Let me look.
I see memorandum for police.
All right, let's go to item, I'd like to add under item 6, a memo that will officially move the funds from ARPA accounting to Public Works. So I'd like to add a memo under item 6 on the list, Dpw Paving. Do you have a motion to add that? Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next, I'd like to add, under new business, a memo from the fire department, the Center Fire District. Do I have a motion to do that? Do I have a second? Do I have any discussion? Is anyone from the fire department here tonight?
No, I'll be representing their.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excuse me, Ken?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me who made those motions and seconded? I didn't hear it.
Oh, Mike Last made the last motion. Ken
Both of them.
Ferris seconded.
Yep.
Okay, Iris made the first motion, or she seconded
I
Mike
second.
Last's motion. Yep. Do you want to sit over here?
Yeah.
The chair will now ask the clerk to paraphrase the minutes from the August 2nd, 2022 regular meeting. You don't have to use last names, and you can just quickly run through it. Go ahead.
West Haven ARPA Committee meeting, Tuesday, August 2nd. Call to order at 5:50. Members, Ken, Mike, Neil, myself, Iris, Ken, Chris Bernstein, Rohan, Gary, absent Neo, Iris, and Ken Ferris. In attendance, Peter Mazzario, Ronald Quagliani,
Just say first names, fine.
Stephen, David, Doug, Jack, Keegan. Approval of agenda, no changes. Approval of meeting minutes, approved by Gary, second, Mike. Chairman's report, introduction of Keegan P. French. Reporting on website development. List of all projects on the website with graph showing progress to completion. A description of the project should pop up if a cursor hovers over it. Development of the checkbook with detailed documentation for the website, distribution of project description and liability, subject to change with new updates. Mr. French is currently assigned here in City Hall 3 days a week. Project updates, closed-circuit television, video surveillance system. Mandatory walkthrough is August 10th. Written response due August 23rd. Bank Support Fund, we have 3 applications delivered from Doug Coulter, Living Word Ministries, Westies Care, Savin Rock Communities. Pocket Parks, a meeting must be set up next week with Chairman Carney and Ernie to review the projects. Johnson Senior Center, the contract from attorney Mark Malaspini in time for the next MARB meeting on September 8th. Child Development Center roof, Antonazi contract went to the lawyers and should be returned by September 8th. DPW infrastructure paving and improvements was a $2 million deficit spending. We would like to move that money over to the reimbursed public works. This amount should be reflected as spent money. Stormwater management, this project has been stagnated. The city engineer has been away. He is back. He has selected 5 companies from the Scrogg list he feels has the capabilities and invited them to present proposals. We should get the on-call from one of the 5 companies. Doug will get into the purchasing department on August 6th. As soon as the on-call firm is identified, Chairman Carney would like to meet and start a tour of the city and use ARPA money to get it fixed. Recycling and Reuse Center in Helm Street. Antonazi has been awarded the architect for this project. Antonazi is on standby until we receive back bids from an engineer, which is due back by August 10th. Child pedestrian safety. West Haven High School is completed. Bailey Middle School and Morgan Lane completed. Edith Mackerel, work started and should be completed this week. Pagels started, should be completed this week. Savin Rock Forest School and Carrigan should be started in the next 2 weeks. Extra crews will be added. The vendor has committed to have all the sidewalks completed by the end of August. Elm City Materials invoice 17,324 in the amount of $48,825.96. Motion to approve. Dwight second. Gary, no objections. Approved unanimously. Broadband accessory library programs. Invoice reimbursement. Print runner invoice number 2241 PRRE in the amount of $319.48. Tyco Print in the amount of $399. Office Depot in the amount of $605.16. Digital Navigator Labor on 7/7, $864.96. Digital Navigator Labor 721 in the amount of $1,157.52. Motion to approve contingent of copy of flyer and details working on the project navigation. Dwight Knowles, second. Rohan. Municipal building improvements, windows, no response from Hoffman Architect. Follow up by Chairman Carney. Aid to the fire districts. We have $25,000 per fire district to procure air purifiers. They will be procured as soon as bulk package and have them installed at their convenience and go to the state bid list. Traffic monitoring cameras, C 3.2.1. Police personnel retention funding and discussion. Children's Camp Grant Summer Employment Fund. No information has been given to the ARPA Committee. CARES Act, financial management, 4 years. Painter Park, Field House. Motion to award the project to Russell Dawson. A motion was given by Dwight. Second, Rohan, no discussion, approved. No new business. Motion to adjourn.
Are there any proposed changes to the minutes as read? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries, and you'll bring those to the city clerk, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right, Chairman's report. Under 1A, Invest in West Haven, we've got $30 million here. I think we should have a slogan. I like the Invest in West Haven. If you guys like that, that should be on our letterheads and be talked about in everything we do. And I want to quickly talk about the ARPA Committee's role. The challenge is there's a lot going on, and we have to try and spend this money as quickly as possible in a way that's the best value to the city. monthly meetings are really not enough. And with that, I would ask that Doug and other people in City Hall email me with decisions that have to be made. I will email that to you, and you guys can make those votes online, and then we could present that at the meeting as an approval, instead of jamming everything into a monthly meeting. But with that, I believe the role of the ARPA committee is total transparency, and everything has to go through the ARPA committee. Now, there are certain things that we're not gonna have a lot to do with. I think police pension is a good example, but the ARPA committee allows for every invoice and every action to be done in public, and everyone can see it, and there's a record going back. What I don't want to happen is money is spent outside of this committee, and then there's another Cohn-Resnick type audit that starts blasting us. And I'm working very hard, and we have a great team to help us do that. I want this thing to be as clean as possible. So I'm gonna reiterate once again that everything needs to come through the ARPA committee. If there's a timing issue, it can come through in an email form, and it can be presented at the next meeting. Any questions from any members on that, or Invest in West Haven as a slogan? Anybody? Okay. All right, moving on. Item B, ARPA website. The website is up and running. I want to thank Keegan for that. I have it on my iPad. If you go to the city website, you will find it. It's a link to the city website, but it's a separate website that we can manipulate. Is that correct? Fairly easy? Okay, good. All right. The way this works is we have a list of all the projects, and we have a green bar graph that shows us how much of the project is completed with numbers next to it. And then when you scroll down, there'll be a description of each project. What I'm hoping will happen is you'll be able to hover the mouse over the name of the project, and the description will pop up, so you don't have to, scroll down. I don't know if that's possible or not, but we talked about that. If we can, work on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so this is a placeholder for now. This is what's on there now is the same summary page that's on page 12 of the packet.
Yep.
That has the project descriptions, the approved amount, what was spent to date, et cetera. I did change the stormwater management titles to be a little bit more clear, because right now there's just 4 stormwater management
Right.
titles. I delineated which project is which in there for now, and then as we move towards creating the Power BI object, which will be interactive and have the features that you're looking for, I'm using this as a placeholder to make sure that we have information up there and live and that's readily accessible.
All right, and we also are looking for a checkbook at some point that shows the total money in the bank and what we've deducted from that.
Yeah, the checkbook is established, it's just not on the website at this time.
Okay, and we'll get that
Because that's,
soon?
right now, it's in an Excel format and not easily
Okay.
placed in what we have. We can work on something else that would be a more adequate
We have total
placeholder.
faith that you can do it.
Thank you.
All right, so hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have those issues in place, taken care of. All right, moving on, TLB architecture. So if you go to page 8, you have the original proposal, between 8 and 12, 8 and 11, I'm sorry. And in that proposal, the firm that, the second firm that was selected, because the first one we broke ties with, to design the art center, in this proposal, was asking for a pretty large number that we rejected. Where's that number, Doug?
Well, it doesn't matter, we rejected it.
Yeah, it was, yeah. No, it was about,
Well north of 600,000.
no, it's beyond that. So it was over $700,000.
Yeah, it was.
It was $772,000.
Right.
Now, understand that the council has not yet released money to the Art Center, but City Hall has money from other funds and grants to start the design of the Art Center, the Arts Conference Center.
So one way to square that is that the architect is proposing on a $6 million project. Now, we've already done phase 1 of the Art Center in 2011. So what we're talking about now is phase 2. And phase 3 was a bells and whistles build-out. So his fee was based on a $6 million project, and we don't have anywhere near $6 million. So what Ken successfully did was negotiate down to the scope of work that we can fund.
So we're at 440, 460, which I think is a good number. This did go through a bidding process. Doug says we need a landscape architect to come in, so there'll be another proposal in the near future. But with that, I'd like a motion to accept TLB Architecture LLC design proposal on page 7 for 440, 460. Motion, do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Anybody?
Ken, what is
Go
the estimated construction value now? It was 6 million, is it, are we at like 4.5 million?
I think 5 million. If you take the 3.5 million the council may give us and the 1.5 million that the city already has, I think you're at 5 million.
And my other question was if the council doesn't approve construction funds,
Yep.
are we gonna move forward with this even though the council hasn't approved the construction funds?
Well, I think the answer is yes, because we need a design. And we've been lacking a comprehensive design for many years, and at least with the design, you can get a budget estimate. And with that, I can give the council more information, we can, maybe other, opportunities for funding. We have $1.5 million we have to spend anyway, a little bit more than that, actually. So I think we need a comprehensive design, but, what I've seen over the years is either a design that includes additions that we're not gonna do anytime soon, or a design that does not address the whole building. There was never a design that I saw that dealt with the funds on hand and the 14,000 square feet that we have here. And this does that.
If we approve this tonight,
Yeah.
would they be able to give us some kind of schematic estimate to give to the city council? On the drawings?
They
or-
would, yes. Yeah, I think from this, we can get a high-level estimate with a simple drawing of what it's gonna look like. But again, we're not looking to really expand the building at this point. We're looking to remodel the inside. And I'm looking at this as a remodel job versus new construction, no big additions, get it going. And these funds are not ARPA funds. This 440,000 would come from existing city funds that were earmarked for this. So, all right. Any other discussion?
Just question,
Sure.
city funds for that, why are we approving?
Well, because when he does the design, he's gonna be designing it to the ARPA fund, so I wanted to have it in the public. What's gonna happen, if you don't approve this in public, and then 8 months from now, we're approving 3.5 million, there's gonna be a big question mark. Technically, do we need to approve it? No, but I think it fits nicely with what we're doing here.
Right.
So,
And the state funding of 1.5 million is still available?
that's what this is gonna
Yes,
speak to, yeah.
Okay.
yes.
All right, so any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, we go to project list. I do want to talk about the city council update on August 22nd. So I was invited to a council meeting, thank you, Mr. Chairman, 11:45 at night. We were able to give an update and give some good news, I think. That news included the completion of the sidewalks before school opened. And I think that's a huge success story. I think Ernie Chirelli should get a medal for that. But those sidewalks got done. The schools are very happy. I'm getting a lot of feedback from not just the administrators, but teachers and parents. We're hearing a lot of good stuff. So it's all over town, and it looks great. So so I updated the council, and I will go back in a week or two and give them another update. Any questions on anything A through D at this point? Okay, moving on to the project list, that's on page 12. So the first item is an invoice. And if you go to page 13, we have an invoice from Carmody, who's our law firm in this process, for $18,990. It's all detailed through page 16. Do I have a motion to accept the Carmody invoice number 523291 for $18,990? Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, do you have any discussion on the invoice?
Ken, you're reviewing all these?
Oh, yeah, I call them. In fact, the first one I got, we found a couple mistakes, not necessarily their fault, but we, pushed back and we came back with a lower number.
I just see your name on the list here a lot, so I figure
Yes.
you're the best one to review.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Ken, are
Yes,
you
sir.
the only one that review these invoices?
What was that, sir?
Are you the only one that review these
Nope,
invoices?
I give them to the committee as well. I think the difficulty this week is the Monday was a holiday, so you got your packet today instead of yesterday. But not only am I reviewing these invoices, I'm living these invoices, because almost every line item has something to do with a conversation I had with them. Yeah. Any other discussion? Sure, yeah, so this covers several months, as David just pointed
Yeah,
out.
this covers April, May, June, and July.
Yeah.
You're highly unlikely to see a number like that on a monthly basis, just to be clear.
Right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have UHY invoice number 630405-125 in the amount of $26,697. Now, Jack, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I don't see a breakdown in your invoice. I do remember seeing one, though. Did you present one to me?
I believe, yeah, we've got the detail, but if it's not in the packet, we can provide it to you.
Yeah, I'll email it to the committee. So like Carmody, this one also represents all the time they've spent in the meetings. There was a lot of work between MARB and UHY. Also, this represents really almost a full-time employee in City Hall. We have Keegan working here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays in City Hall doing all the reporting and paperwork. I'm happy to say that because of UHY, we met the July 31st reporting deadline for the Treasury Department. So there's a lot of man-hours in here that you don't see in this invoice, but it covers everything to date. Do you have a motion to accept this one?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one?
And the only thing is, going back to the website, if, until they get that designed, if you guys could just put up that, the Excel spreadsheet with the money that's been approved and the expenditures.
It's there.
Just so, it is there?
Yeah, I'll pass this down to you, hold on. I got it up right now. So this is the website right here. Pass that down.
My only concern is that I just like to see the billable hours.
6:18 p.m.
I'll get those to you tomorrow, if there's any problem. We already owe them more money for time they've spent, so we're covered.
So that's on the website? The Excel? Okay.
That's the actual website right
All
there.
right, perfect.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next, we move on to child development roof. I did speak to Antonazzi and to Mark, who works for Carmody, and there was a few things in the proposed contract that were left over from the inside work that landed on Antonazzi's proposed contract. He identified those are coming out. I suspect that contract will be signed this week. Parks Fund. Doug, I'm gonna ask you to talk about that.
Sure, so, I have that Excel spreadsheet here. And on the left is the title of the park as best we know it. The address as best we know it. What type of park it is, and the proposed work scope, and the proposed budget. So as you can see, we've got penciled in 1.4 million and 1 million fund. So what our team, which is made up of 2 employees here in the city, are going through these 35 parks, and they're looking at the proposals, and they're trying to vet the numbers, and hopefully by our next meeting, we'll come back to you with solid recommendations for scope and cost for budgets. Once you approve the park and the budget, we will then bid that work. Some of it will be collective, we'll be able to merge some of these together and bid them, and we'll get this bought out as soon as we can. There's been a number of proposals that came from parks we weren't even considering, such as City Green, and there's opportunities to look at other funding sources that might enhance some of these ideas as well. So when we come back, we should have a pretty good idea of where we think the money is best spent.
So when that comes back to us, we also have the option to go back to the council and talk about some contingency money or some of the money that we've saved on other jobs that went into contingency to reapply towards parks. So we definitely want to see the final list, and we'll vote on it and take it from there.
Now, there is one item that we, that, Ken, you may consider pushing ahead on this. There's a proposed park at a city-owned property at the end of Old Kimberly Avenue. So if you know where the boatyard is, the road that leads, so.
The old Coast Guard.
The old Coast Guard shack sits at the end of Old Kimberly Avenue. And that building is owned by the city. It was given to a nonprofit for use. They were supposed to maintain it. That didn't work out so well. We're back with the building. We've been working with the Connecticut Technical High School group to renovate that building. Our cost is gonna be asbestos abatement and materials. Our plan for the building is another community use, of which we will put out to the community as a proposal to see what other nonprofits choose to do with that building. The fee or rent for that building will be the fee, it was gonna be stewardship of that and the surrounding park area. Our proposal is to clean up the area where people go to fish, make it so we can maintain it, landscape it, formal parking, and do something with the picnic grove that we own at the entrance there by the sandbar. To clean that up and make it maintainable. Right now, it's hard for us to maintain it. So that's the grand vision for that. Now, it just so happens that last year, Connecticut Technical High School group did come through and do some plans for it. And if you want to pass these down, kind of hard to show here, and then we'll bring them over to the camera. These are conceptual drawings. Yeah. You can pass it down. So we'll bring it over to the camera when the team is finished looking at it. No, let's pass it this way, and then I'll bring it over to him at the end. Now, if you've ever been involved in construction projects, the first round of design is always depicting way more money than you have. So we recognize that, but we also recognize that something has to be done. This is the gateway to West Haven. And it's a blighted property the city owns. Trying to find funds to renovate that is very difficult. That's why we feel it's very appropriate for an ARPA project. And our ability to partner with Connecticut Technical High Schools to make this a school project, it's going to involve well over 100 students in 5 different trades. And we think that it's a great project. All we have to do is fund the materials and some of the excavating work. Now, in order for it to be eligible for students to work in that project, it does need to be abated first. And that is something we would have to do even if we're gonna tear the building down, because we would have to abate it. So, it doesn't have to be decided tonight, but we would like to submit, the quote from AAIS, who is on the state bid list. We did confirm the contract is a valid contract. Back here. And this would be 29,000 of 170 total budget for this entire park project, including the building.
All right, let's do this. I'd like to pick a date that we can go walk this property and invite committee members with us. And then we'll take it from there. you guys
Is this like
good?
down behind the Super 8 or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Are members of best available like at 5 o'clock or on a weekend? What's best for everybody?
Pretty flexible here. I'm pretty flexible.
Want to do a weekend, or
Yeah, sure.
do you like a Saturday morning? Can you do a Saturday morning?
No.
Depending on the day, I mean, I could,
5 o'clock?
yeah,
All right.
5:30.
All right, so Doug, let's set up a time for next week. We'll head over there.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've got one question on this before we move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
With this list, when this is a complete list, including maybe this property, is that on the list now or no?
Yes, that is on the list as
Old Kimberly Avenue?
Yeah.
All right. So if this continues, when, there's several here that don't have any amounts in them. One that is complete, that 1.4 million is probably gonna increase, I would imagine, and does it make sense then to put it back to the city council with a list of all the projects in the budgets and either ask for an additional allotment of funds to do them all, or to ask them to partner and prioritize the projects?
I think that, I think sharing that with the city council and asking for more funds may be an opportunity. I think if you put them in the position of picking the parks, they're gonna be forced to pick parks in their district, and you're not gonna get, you know, a consensus on anything. I think what needs to happen is, number one, I talked to Ernie today, we need to have a checklist of what these parks need. So a generic checklist that has everything that a park could ever need on the checklist. Ernie goes around, he checks off what the parks need. We come back, we create a budget, and this may be the budget here, but we augment this a little bit, and then we decide how we're gonna spend the money.
I think they have to vet it, and then you have to prioritize it once they vet the projects. You know, somebody says, I need 75,000 for a basketball court, is that a realistic number, is it too high, is it too low?
Yeah, I think my point was that it's at 1.4 with,
We only have $1 million in funding.
right, if there's 7 projects that don't even have prices on them.
Right.
So I'm assuming that's gonna go to 1.6, 1.7, and, I think asking for, they're all good projects, they all look really, really good, but do we go back, ask them for, if they say, no, you have $1 million, you know, how do we pick $1 million worth of
We're gonna,
projects?
this committee's gonna pick it. We have to go through it. All right, any other questions on the Parks Fund? Anybody? Let's move on to Food Bank. If you go to page 19, through 25. So this is an application that did not make it to us for some reason. This is the fish application?
Yeah, at first I've seen it.
Yeah, he may have had the wrong email for you. He sent over the original email. I think it may have been the incorrect email. Jack, you there?
I'm here.
All right, so we now have 4 applicants chasing 400,000, if I'm correct. Does it make sense to just divide it equally and call it a day? Has anyone gone and looked at these properties?
You know, you had asked, and I'd started just outreach on that, trying to understand what it is their intent was. I think, you know, the Westies Care Group, really, they're not doing community feeding, food bank work. It's more of events that they want us to fund. And then also, I think, we've got to get a better understanding as to what are the wishes of the council. Because in reading, you know, what they had said, it looked like they were looking for us to do seed money in a few different ways, perhaps funding infrastructure. All of these are basically telling us what their budgets are, what they spend the money on, and then asking for the funds, which is fine too. But basically, it'd just be, as you say, just giving them a check and they would spend it for their normal operations. If that's what we want to do, then.
Well, I'm thinking along the lines the way you are. So I went over to Vertical Church, to the old KFC. They've rented 3,000 square feet they're turning that into a food clothing pantry, and they need about $100,000 to $150,000 of work. And that would be work to the building. That would include, shelving, refrigeration, bringing it up to code, creating more easy access for people, that ramps and things. And I spent about an hour there. That's a sound, good project.
But they didn't, when they put in their application, that's not what they put in their app for.
I think they did, actually, didn't they?
They did, but they had a lot of ongoing support money in their application as well for monthly costs. And the question is, okay, is that just to get it up and running and then you're gonna find other money to continue, or what? I think that the mayor's intent was that this be seed money to leverage other money, to make things possible by paying for refrigerated trucks if need be, or forklifts, or renovation of storage space, walk-in coolers. What do you need to make a food bank work that you can't get through your normal operation of funding sources?
That's as I understood it, and
Yeah.
it would appear that this would fall under that category.
I think we should bring them all before us and
Yeah.
interview them and get this money spent.
So one of them had suggested something that sounded like an annual picnic, and I didn't think that fit the bill.
Right.
That was
Another-
that was Westie's Care.
Yeah.
Another one was a ongoing soup kitchen type operation, which wasn't fitting the original model, but that doesn't mean it has to fit the original model. I mean, if that's a valid way to get food to people, then, certainly fits the intent. Westie's Care Group is the Congregational Church Group. They weren't doing the picnic, that was a different group.
I think we should bring these applicants before us, ask questions and,
And Ken,
yeah,
I would suggest
I'm
that
sorry.
they have, as was described a little bit earlier, a little bit more of a detailed budget. All right, here's what we need for capital. Here's what we would need for supplies. And here's what we would need for operating costs and for how long. Asking for that, and then I think they should be prepared, if they are asking for operating costs, they should be prepared to answer the question, what happens when this money goes away? Or what do the sustainability of the program.
Right. And we have that from vertical.
Really typical of what I'm seeing other locations or other localities do when they are providing these sort of funds to food banks such as they're in.
So I think Vertical Church fits that bill. They're looking to actually create an outlet for food and clothing. I think that's a no-brainer. Westie's Cares, I don't know enough about, but it sounds like they're not doing,
No,
Food.
Westie's had a similar application with the correct detail, but they're a kitchen operation, prepared meals operation. So it's a little different approach. They did give us a good budget. The other two did not give us detailed budgets.
well, who are the other two?
The Savin Rock Communities, it was unclear whether they were running a food bank or what they were doing with the funds, so we need more clarification from them, some more detail. And Fish, I don't understand from this budget whether this is what they're doing. I don't get the,
That looks just like their operating budget, and they're asking for the blanket money to support their mission, if you read it.
yeah. Looks like a Meals on Wheels operation, which may be a legitimate way to deliver this. Certainly a different aspect than the others have.
So what's interesting about Fish is they only deliver food to people who are homebound.
Right.
They can't leave the house. They have veterans who are disabled, they have disabled people, they've got elderly people who don't leave the house. I think they're performing a pretty good service. The only thing is, we gotta make sure that this is earmarked for West Haven residents, not other towns. So I think we have to bring these people before us, these organizations, and ask them some questions. You guys good with that?
Yeah, that's good, because even with the fish one, they have $62.50 a month budget, but only 1,000 is food. All the other stuff is operational, so that's like 16% of the budget monthly is going toward what we're looking for. So having them come in and answer those questions, I think would be good.
Yeah. All right, so you have this application. If you go into your previous booklets, you'll see the other applications. Members should create some questions for next month. All right, moving on. Next, we go to the Johnson Senior Center. That project is in contract negotiations. That is very close to wrapping up. And I'm confident that the firm that we chose will move quickly. I talked to them about a 90-day turnaround. I think they'll meet that, so I'll keep you updated on that. Any questions on that one? Moving on to Dpw Paving. That is 100% complete. And we do have a letter here. If you pull out your letter for the paving. And Dwight, I'm going to have you read the letter.
I have it here.
Okay, go ahead.
Dated September 6th, to Scott Jackson, Director of Finance, from the Secretary Dwight Knowles, pursuant to an appropriation made by the City Council dated June 6th, attached with regards to funds to be paid out of the ARPA Reserve for the Department of Public Works Paving and Improvements. As approved by the City Council, the ARPA Committee hereby authorizes the use of $2 million out of said ARPA Reserve for Project 2022-006 DPW Paving and Improvements. The above resolution was put before the committee for vote by Ken Carney, Chairman of Citizens ARPA Oversight Committee, on July 5th, and it was approved as reflected in the minutes to that meeting. Signed and acknowledged herein by Dwight Knowles, Secretary of Citizens ARPA Oversight Committee.
All right, so this has already been approved. I'm going to sign it, date it. I'll give it to you, Keegan, and you're going to attach the council resolution, give it to Scott. Pass that down to Keegan, please.
On this one, I just want to be clear, I think it's clear, but confirm with Doug and Keegan, these funds were approved in the category that we've described as discretionary under 6.1. There's a reference to that on the similar letter that's at page 98. I just want to be clear on that.
Do you want to
$2 million.
notarize my signature on that?
If you want me to, I'll
Yeah,
do
why
it.
don't you have him just sign the backup on it?
So, I think that letter was set up for the secretary to sign that this was voted on, not you.
Oh,
Oh,
You want me to sign on it too?
Yeah,
yes, it is for
yeah.
Dwight's
So
signature.
sign yours,
Okay,
and then he'll notarize it.
And that goes to me, please.
okay. He's gonna notarize it. He's just gonna sign it too.
So swear this is your free act indeed.
Sure is. So you're gonna go give it to,
You want to give it to Keegan, or you?
Keegan.
want-
I'll give it to me and I'll file it.
he wants to file
You're
it.
going to give this to Jackson, right?
Yep,
Thank you, Keegan.
thank you.
Moving on here, we've got stormwater management feasibility study. Where are we with that, Doug?
Okay, so the stormwater management feasibility study is out on the street, and the respondents have asked for a little bit more time, so the purchasing agent has agreed to extend deadline to the 20th of the month reluctantly, but given the amount of work involved for what we're asking for in response, I think it's fair to the applicants. They had asked for to the 30th, and we said, no, we'll go to the 20th. But we do have some high-level firms with some real firepower interested in the project. and I feel confident we'll get some good responses.
All right, so our minutes reflect an August 6th deadline that you were gonna get it to the purchasing department, right?
Yeah,
From the-
so, yes, it is out on the street. They did get it published, again, last week in August.
All right, let's move on to the capital fund. That's the fund that I'm paying Brandon out of?
Say it again?
The capital fund is what we're paying Brandon out of?
Paying whom?
Brandon.
Oh, the other engineer?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right, so we walked 5 properties 2 weeks ago. We did Lake, we did Washington, we did Fenwick, we did Colonial, and we did Peabody. I was able to get a list of every culvert in the city from Commissioner McCarthy. And the goal is to look at every one and make sure they're clean, and if they're not clean, to get a backhoe in there and clean them. Now, Lake Avenue, turns out, has got a lot of flooding going on, like a lot of areas. Late today, I did get a report from the engineer that's about, 30 pages, but the bottom line is that the house whose yard floods most commonly is in a FEMA flood plain. And what happens is the water comes up to a berm in their yard, and they're forced to move chairs and fire pits and things. That's never going away. That is there, it's part of the floodplain. It doesn't ever go away. As you go down a lake, you run into a house that is on the very corner of Lake in West Main, that actually the whole house floods, not just the property. And my understanding is FEMA is in talks to remove that house.
NRCS, the first two
Yeah.
houses, yeah.
Okay, 'cause they're a problem.
So let's be clear.
Yeah.
An offer has been made orally to the two homeowners to participate in a buyout program. And it's up to the homeowners to step up to the plate to participate at this point.
Now, if you go behind these homes, you see this, for lack of a better word, a pond or something, and there's islands in the pond. And when you go to the satellite pictures, and you go back all the way to 1977, those islands are there. They're different shapes and different sizes, but they've always been there. What's interesting is what the FEMA map shows as the flow of the Cove River is not happening. The Cove River is taking a right-hand turn and going under West Main versus going to the dam and then going under West Main. And the engineer does not know why that's happening.
Silt.
Yeah, maybe. The other interesting thing is that a lot of work was done in this area already several years ago, and it alleviated house flooding to the house
On the other side.
on the other side.
Yeah.
If we go into Lake Street and we start moving things around, the consensus is we're gonna flood that house again, in those houses.
Correct.
So I've got a whole report here. I'm gonna email this to you tomorrow. But bottom line is, it's not an easy thing to fix. Some of it can't be fixed. And, we gotta decide if we're gonna spend more money on this or not. I think this gets kicked up to your big study. I don't think this is the little guy thing.
Correct, and I would also add that we have a grant process going with National Fish and Wildlife to renovate the Cove River from its outlet all the way to the headwaters. And that's a $10 million effort. It will take 3 years to get through the grant process. You have to do a study, and then you have to do design, and then you get to do construction in your third year. In that whole area, plus what NRCS is doing with that micro problem of those two houses, is part of that larger effort. I don't see this as having enough funds to affect anything there,
Right.
one way or the other.
That's exactly right. We do have some easy, low fruit to attend to. I've got a couple culverts that are clogged. That's no big deal. So we're gonna move ahead in that, and I'll keep you updated on that.
No environmental problems with doing that? Just going in with the backhoe?
That'll be up to the engineer to decide, but that's his main concern. There
Okay.
should be no problems, yeah. All right, any questions on that? Anybody? All right, moving on to the vacuum truck. So we have got the vacuum truck down to 502,049.98. And that is down from two bids. One was 609,292, and one was 574. So when the original bid went out, it called for some very specific equipment that's not readily available because of COVID. It also called for a truck that was really too big and powerful to operate within the city boundaries. We met with the vendors. They told us, they educated us on what we should be looking for, went back out to bid, and saved about $80,000. So we want to issue a PO to Sanitary Equipment. It is a West Haven company. They, with their 10% local vendor ordinance, they were able to meet the price and come in at 502,049.98. I do need a motion to accept that, so finance can issue a PO on our say-so. Do you have a motion?
Ken, hold on a second.
Yes.
What was that, 10%?
So we have a local ordinance that anything under $1 million, a local vendor has a 10% advantage to lower his price up to 10% to capture the low bid to get the job.
Can't use that for federal funds.
Okay,
That's a geographic preference.
all right, so with that, let me tell you the rest of the story. So it turns out that
I think we would have selected,
well, let me, so here's how this went down, Jack. The local guy was $4,000 lower than the non-local guy.
Right.
But the non-local guy included $13,000 in equipment that the local guy did not include. So we asked him to match the low price and include the equipment. So ultimately, without the 10%, he was still lower, if that makes sense. And I got the paperwork in my office.
There's nothing requiring you to take the low bid. You can do what is called best value to the city. Want to make sure that whatever scoring rationale that you're using, if it, you're not indicating that part of the bid was giving preference to a local vendor when you're using federal funds. If federal government doesn't care if you use someone local or someone national, as long as they're getting the best quality for the best price for the money that they're funding. So we just need to be careful in the way that that is documented to make sure that there is no indication that there was local preference involved in the scoring of the bids.
I think the best documentation we have, believe it or not, is after we awarded this to Sanitary Equipment, we got an email from Truck Country informing us that they were no longer in the truck business and they were withdrawing their bid.
That makes it even easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so with that, do you have a motion to accept Sanitary Equipment's bid for the vac truck of 502,049.98?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Any discussion?
Ken, what's the line item in the budget?
Yeah, we gotta look at that. I
37?
No, I think it went up to 560.
yeah, he went back for a second appropriation because the first round came in pretty high.
We went up to 560, so I'm gonna actually go back to the council and ask them to take that money back,
Well,
to contingency.
right, so the entire stormwater appropriation was for $3 million, of which that truck was a certain amount of.
Right.
So it would just go back to that line item, stormwater management.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll get that to finance tomorrow. Okay, moving on to Recycling and Reuse Center. Where are we with that, Doug?
So the award was given to, the engineer, so we had one, I think it was 65,000, and one at 154,000. Guess which one we picked. But he also is the same engineer that had done the model that we're using. So we were modeling our plans based on what the town of Southington did. Lo and behold, it's the same fella, so, he knows exactly what we want. And, based on what he did for that town, I think he'll be able to get us where we gotta go on a budget. So that is in the process of legal review, his contract. We're just waiting for that to come back from Carmody.
All right, let's have that at the next meeting.
Sure.
All right, moving on here, we've got the child pedestrian safety, that is our sidewalks. I've got several invoices starting on page 30. Okay, so each of,
Before we move off recycling
Yep.
reuse, all right, we just need to judge your process on this. So part of the recycling reuse center is physical improvements to the property. Part of it is to buy some equipment, such as some dumpsters, and we need 2 used roll-off trucks. These used roll-off trucks, one never leaves the site, it's just for moving dumpsters around site, and the other would be a shared piece of equipment with the sewer plant, so they can jockey dumpsters down there as well. So, and that one would also be used for occasional DPW work, dropping dumpsters around town. So we need one that can be a little ugly and one not so ugly, but brand new is in the 600,000 range, so it's a little out of our range. So we're looking for the first truck around $10,000-$20,000 and the second truck around $75,000. The issue is that there are not a lot of these available on the used market. We're gonna have to send our team out to New York and Georgia, maybe even California, to find one that's worth buying. It's something that they're gonna have to have a pre-approved budget for and start looking over months. And when they find the right truck, they're gonna have to be able to strike, because it won't be there for long. When you go to a dealer, you find a truck you like, you gotta write a check right there and close on it. So I think what we'd be looking for, and it doesn't have to happen tonight, but I would like it to happen tonight if you can, is to approve 100,000 of that money for that as a budget, so that we can send our fleet manager out knowing how much he's allowed to spend.
my feeling, and the committee may have a different feeling, is I'd like to see the engineer on, I'd like to see a design, I'd like to get a budget to know this thing's gonna happen, and then we start talking trucks.
Except that the sewer plant needs the truck sooner rather than later.
If the council didn't give us money to buy it for the sewer plant, they gave it to us to buy for this particular project.
Yeah, it's all part of solid waste management. It's all in the same
You guys,
flavor.
any discussion on this? Anybody?
I think we should wait until we see the plans
See
of
something?
everything that's going on.
Well, that could be months.
All right, I'll put it on the, I'll put it on the agenda for next month.
We'd appreciate it.
You know, what I'm concerned about is I don't wanna spend a dime outside of the council's original, allocations and their wish. And if I have to go tell them that a truck appeared for the DPW, and I try to connect the dots to this thing, I'm gonna be murdered at the podium. So I gotta be careful of that. You know, not every, ARPA can't fund everything. All right, moving on to the sidewalks. I've got invoices here. So these invoices have been reviewed in person. The actual work's been reviewed in person by Ernie. I've reviewed the invoices. We've gone through them in great detail. So I'm gonna do one at a time. And the first invoice I have is from Elm City Materials, 17598 for $11,044.95. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next, I have invoice number 17534 in the amount of $4,340. That's for Pagel School. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do you have a second? Mike, second? Okay, we got Dwight, followed by Mike. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Motion carries. Next, I have Haley School for $25,993.03, invoice number 17471. Do I have a motion to approve? We have Gary, seconded by Mike. Do you have any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I have Colonial Boulevard, which services Bailey. Invoice number 17508 in the amount of $90,293.83. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do you have Gary, do you have a second?
Second.
Dwight, second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I've got Savin Rock, invoice number 17615 in the amount of $47,066.04. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, so we're gonna do, Rohan will make the motion. Gary, you're second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I have West Haven High School, invoice number 17491 in the amount of $43,167.72. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Gary, second? Second, Ken Ferris. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I have invoice number 17597 for Forest School, the amount of $22,073.25. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, let's go with Rohan made the motion, Gary seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, Bailey School, Direct Bailey School, invoice number 17492 in the amount of $28,163.96. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay, we have Dwight followed by Mike with the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, go to page number 53.
1 second.
Yes, sir.
Did we miss 17534 for 4,000?
17565.
I got that one.
Okay.
You missed the one before.
Yeah, I thought it was 17565.
Oh, I missed that one?
Yep.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
for 92,774.38.
You guys are driving me crazy here. Hold on. Oh, I said 90,000, which is another invoice. So I do not have the 92 in the book. Hold on.
17565?
I do have it. Yeah, I got it. We approved it. 17565, it's in there.
Yeah, but we skipped over it.
You skipped it.
You did the 11,000 and then you did the 4,000.
Oh, I didn't read it, you're saying?
Right.
Okay, I have invoice number for Edith McCrill, 17565, in the amount of $92,774.38. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay, we'll go with Dwight, followed by Gary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, go to page number 53.
Ken, I was just making sure you knew I was paying attention.
Buddy, you're the man, that's why I pay you. Thank you for that. All right, so, and by the way, it is very difficult to keep track of 20 jobs and prepare for this meeting, do all the copies, so any help you guys can give me, I appreciate. All right, so what I
And do
have.
the minutes.
And do the minutes. So what I have for you on page 53 is the condition of the ADA ramp at Haley School. Now, when I went to the council, they gave me a contingency of $50,000 that I only used 3,000 of. I would like to get a price to do this ramp over, reskin it, not jackhammer it out and redo it, but reskin it to make this safe for the kids. Do I have a motion to allow that? Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion?
Who's the second?
Iris. All right, all in favor, say aye. Okay, motion carries. So I'm gonna use some of that contingency money, talk to Ernie, and get this guy fixed.
We should make this a priority if students are back in school.
I agree. Okay, next, we have the Broadband Access Library program, and someone here asked for their flyer.
Yes.
Their flyer is on the next two pages. Pages 54 and 55. The library claims they called you to star in the flyer, but you didn't return their call.
No.
So,
Didn't.
any questions on that? All right, there's no additional invoices, I just wanted to make you aware that was happening. I think that's a great program, by the way. All right, moving on. We have City Hall windows, still no word from our friends at Hoffman. Next, we have the fire districts. Now, we do have them under new business. I think I'll just skip and wait to new business.
Okay.
All right, next I go to Boardwalk camera monitoring. So, we had 3 consultants submit an RFQ. One did not give us a price. That was Chase, because Chase followed the instructions, and the instructions were, give us your RFQ first, and then we'll ask you for a price. The other 2 jumped ahead and did a price. So I'll talk to finance this week. We have 2 companies that bid it, one that didn't, but the one that didn't is the one that followed the instructions. And I'll get back to you on that.
Hey, Ken, just a quick question. What
Yes,
was
sir.
the total amount of money set aside for the whole project for the cameras?
1 million,
It was 1 million?
yeah. Yep. And one company, if you look in here, they did a little diagram. You see if I can find it, it's kind of cool. It depicts exactly what we went over.
Wasn't there for other areas outside of the boardwalk as well?
So we're starting with the boardwalk, and then we're gonna do change orders with the firms that we hire to do other areas of the city. But somebody had a diagram that showed the call stations. That's it, what page is that?
87.
Go to page 87. So if you look at this, this shows the path that we want cameras on. And I believe the red dots are the actual call stations that would support the cameras. And the concept is that the cameras are live all the time. They're recorded. They can be accessed by the police department anytime. I'm hearing a 35-day recording with the NVR. It's all connected with fiber, so if fiber optic comes down to feed this thing at some point, you can omit the internet and just do fiber. And these call stations go up. The cameras are mounted to the call stations. Someone hits the emergency button, and a bunch of lights come on, and one camera of the 6 that are up there is a point in zoom, and the cops can see what's going on in real time. So, we like that.
So the cameras are designed for forensic purposes. There's no one actually monitoring them live as,
The 911 dispatch will have them live up on the screen. I don't know if they'll be watching them 24/7, but they'll be there. And if there's a call station button hit, the screens in the 911 would go right to that.
Will the camera be able to follow an individual?
One will.
One will.
You only need one to do that, yeah.
Okay.
One per call station. So what the call stations really do is they omit ugly poles, they get rid of ugly poles, you don't see wires above ground, in the air. It kind of fits the scenery down there. You're not gonna really, like, the average person won't know those cameras are there. Any questions on cameras?
When do we expect to have these?
They have to design them, it'll probably take a month to do that, and then we put it out to bid, as soon as possible.
Is this site already equipped with fiber optic?
No, the fiber optic I'm talking about is gonna be underground,
Right.
and it's gonna connect all the different call stations that support the cameras. There's fiber optic in the area, but it's unclear to me if it works or not. And the way this system works is, it's gonna work off an internet system in one of the bathhouses, a secure room. But if fiber optic comes down to the beach, you can just buy a module and convert it over. Yep. Any questions on police? All right, moving on to police retention funding. Please pull that letter out. Now, who signs this one, me or Dwight? I'm gonna sign it again. Okay.
What page again? 98.
We actually have to do a, so I actually had did everybody have a copy of this? It's a loose, well, it's actually in the book, it's the same one's in the book.
Page 98.
Page 98.
Again.
All right, so this is just for Dwight to sign. I think we've already passed the resolution, right?
Yep.
So what Dwight is authorizing is the approval of 2.4 million from the ARPA funds to the police station for the individual bonuses for each police officer. The ARPA committee already voted on it. Dwight is making it official as the secretary.
So swear.
And this one is not written as approved in a separate meeting. We don't want to approve it in this meeting.
We want to approve it this meeting? All right, do I have a motion to approve the transfer of 2.4 million from the ARPA funds to the police station for retention bonuses? Do I have a second? Iris, good. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Motion carries. You taking this one? Don't lose them. Okay, we're moving on to Youth Employment Fund. That is ongoing and requires some backup that we don't have yet. Do you want to call Matt tomorrow? And he's the Board of Ed Business Manager, and ask him if he can give us some records on this, please? Thank you. Next, we have Painter Park Fieldhouse. And that is Russell Dawson, page 99. So if you go to page one, no, hold on. Go to page one. Yeah, 102. So this is the area that this field house would go in. This is a Butler building type field house that is non-conditioned space. It'll have a playing field inside. It'll have fans running. It's there for protection for students or campers who are out here with their the daily camp program. When lightning strikes, have nowhere to go, they'll run into this field house. It'll be a practice house for football and lacrosse, and it'll have a playing field. It'll be well lit, and it will be a safe place for kids to hang out. Now,
Put some cameras in there.
yes, now with that, if you look at the rink just below this, it turns out we have a transformer problem at the rink. It's a $180,000 problem. And the problem is that the transformer is not accessible for the UI, so they want us to move it at our expense. The play here is that we would put a new transformer to service the new building and would also service the rink, omitting a $180,000 charge. In the meantime, we have a carport going up that is going to be solar powered for the rink, and we want to put solar panels on the new building to feed the power that'll be consumed by the rink and the new building. So we're looking into that as Plan B.
There's some money out there through Eversource and a few others, these Z-Rex, things like that.
There'd be no cost to us in the solar fields at all, and it would lower our kilowatt charge down to 3 to 4 cents. And I've got a proposal here from Russell Dawson, which I thought was outstanding. I totaled it up, but not in your book, but he's looking for 2142 and 18, 59,000? $59,000 to design and do CA work for the field house. Do you have a motion to approve Russell and Dawson's proposal for the field house? Do I have a second? Any discussion?
How big's the building?
We don't know yet. I mean, they haven't signed a contract, but it's gonna be basically half the size of football fields, what I'm being told.
Will that lower field still be able to be used for?
Yes, it will, yeah. Yes, they tell me. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we go to new business. Does anybody else have any new business other than what was already put on the agenda? Okay, Center Fire Districts. Center Fire District, let's pull out the letter. There you go. You wanna read it, Doug?
Sure, I'm standing in as a surrogate for Chief O'Brien, who is under the weather and couldn't make it personally. And we're just here to gauge the temperature of the committee on how this might play out. So, as you know, the desire for Center District is to remodel their firehouse on Elm Street. And that's a multi-million-dollar project that requires funding from multiple sources. It's apropos that the ARPA funds are coming in at this point in time, but the time constraint of when they're able to spend that money is a problem in how they're planning that project. So, as part of that major project, they have to take the fire personnel out of the building so it can be renovated. And the way they're gonna do that is to distribute them, the current plan, not voted on by the commissioners, but the current plan is to put the men into the satellite firehouses temporarily while the building's being remodeled. To enable that to happen, some renovations have to happen at the Malloy Road Fire Station to add a bay big enough to house the aerial and to renovate the facility for male and female occupancy. So what they would like to do is to spend that million given to them by ARPA as an enabling project to renovate the much-needed renovation for the Malloy Road Station, which is a full-time active station. It's completely in keeping with everything they're talking about with with the project that they had proposed originally. $1 million is probably not enough. They're gonna have to supplement it with funds of their own or from another grant. And I think that it's probably the best thing we can do for them with this money is to back this project.
All right, so let's run the numbers here. We give them the $1 million. They use that money for soft costs, or some of it, right?
Well, they're actually hoping to use the majority of it for hard costs at the Malloy Road Station. And they're gonna supplement what what that project's gonna need with other funding.
They're gonna hire the architect.
Hire the architect and.
Out of the $1 million.
Out of the $1 million,
Okay.
and do the construction, but the architect for the Malloy Road project, not the Elm Street project.
Correct. Now, what happens if they take the $1 million, they hire the architect, the addition comes in at 2.5?
So our recommendation, and I think, Ken, you agree with this part, is that they get the architect in early to do some high-level costing and budgeting, and then have a come-to-spreadsheet moment and decide the best way to go.
Yeah, so I guess where I'm going with this is, they need the $1 million. I would hate for them to find out too late that they need more than $1 million that they don't have, and they can't spend the $1 million, and we end up giving that back to the Treasury Department. That's a real problem.
And that's the reason they're shifting to Malloy Road. They think they can make that happen faster,
All right.
and they think that they can get additional funding to supplement the project.
So what motion are you looking from us tonight?
Well, I don't know if we need one tonight. I think that, well, it would help. I think what they want to do now is from the architect's shortlist, they want to start getting proposals for design on Malloy, but didn't want to go in that direction if there was any reason to object at this level.
All right,
We go to like a pre-design study or something?
Yeah.
Just to get
I think that's,
$50,000 pre-design study to get some costs and some designs before they jump into $1 million project that might be $3 million?
Well, let me ask a question. If this thing comes in at 1.8, do they have enough money to cover that?
Well, I say we, because emergency management has been involved in that building as well, but we've been looking for money for that building for quite a while. The
Malloy.
Malloy Road Station. It hasn't been, not much has been done since it was built in 1950. It's time to modernize it. So, we feel that it's appropriate for state bonding ask.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get that in time.
Well, it'll come up in the next budget cycle. So that's a viable source for the balance of the funds.
I think they need to move as quickly as possible, engage one of the architects that we've already identified to avoid having to go out to bid and lose another 2 months. And I think our ask would be, at schematic design, we get a high-level budget.
Correct. That's their intention as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you need a motion from us to make that happen, or do you think?
Well, yes, I think we would need well, if there's no objection to the plan, let us go get the price quote from the architect, select the architect, and have you endorse that.
Okay. You guys okay with that?
And if we could do that by email,
Yeah,
consensus.
100%. Yeah, we want to move quickly on this.
Yeah.
And again, I just don't, I'd rather the money, it's their money, but if they can't spend it in time, it's got to go to another project somewhere else. That's the problem.
That's
It can
correct.
never go back to the feds.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just a reminder, that for a project like this, you would have to have a contract in place to spend the money by December 31, 24, and the money would need to be spent by December 31st, 26. But as you indicated, Mr. Chair, that, making sure that, you've got that contract in place by probably June 30th of 24 at the latest, so that if for some reason something is going awry, you can cancel the contract and make sure those funds are committed before the end of 12/31/24. And at a minimum, the state is going to want to have that budget before they even consider putting it on the bonding agenda.
so, Jack, that's good advice. I would also say this. I think more important than price from these 4 architectural firms is time frame.
Yep.
Now, we had a situation at the pool. We hired KBA to do a high-level 3D model of what the pool at the high school could look like. Just a conceptual design. We paid them $5,000 to do that. We then put it out to bid for a design firm to come in and actually make it, do the specs to make it look like that. Nobody showed up to the walkthrough. I called KBA, and they said they're so busy that they declined to bid what could have been their own job. So I think, if we're gonna try and save $20,000, but the firm can't produce work for 8 months, we've got a problem. So I think the question, more than price, is how soon can you do it?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other comments on that? Any other new business?
Yes. Our tree warden, who's now working part-time for us as a project manager,
Yep.
is asking for a computer so he can do his emails and all his work here in the
Jack,
office.
how does that work? The individual who we hired part-time to run the parks and help us, do the park fund, is asking for an $800 laptop. Is that something that comes out of ARPA, or does that get kicked
Yeah,
back to
that
the?
can come out of ARPA, that's fine.
Okay. All right, do you have a motion to accept?
Just so people understand, in this building, IT does not buy computers. Each department has to budget for their own.
No, we understand.
Yeah.
I have a motion, can I have a motion to accept a $766.81 expenditure for a laptop for ARPA use.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any
My
discussion?
question is, who will be responsible for that laptop?
Becomes part of the IT inventory, so
Okay.
it's
So
city
it will be
property.
tracked,
City property, it
city
stays here.
property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanna make sure.
Any other discussion?
So it's Mike and who else?
Who made the motion to accept it? Was it Gary? Gary and Mike. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ken, can you just sign that for a PO? Okay, it's a purchase order.
Can I have a copy of those items I
What's the date?
signed when you get a chance?
Yes, tonight you wanna scan it and email it?
Yeah, you can scan and email.
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do you have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Have a wonderful night, everybody.